Welcome to Masters of Max, a mobile app experience podcast. Please welcome your host, Tom Butta, Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer at Airship.
Welcome to an evening show of Masters of Max. It's my pleasure to speak with Jonathan Azouri, CEO of CatchCorner, all the way from Toronto, Canada. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be on.
So, Jonathan, you're the founder and CEO of a company that I certainly would want to use, and so many others. Tell us a little about what led you to starting the company.
I've always been, I would say, super intrigued with, starting my own thing. I've always had that sort of entrepreneurial, I would say, passion. Innovation and creativity has always been something that's been I would say, at the forefront of my everyday passion. I think regardless of what you do in life, I think one thing that always gets forgotten is that sometimes you just have to roll up your sleeves and you have to get your hands dirty. And what I mean by that is that, just because you start something from the ground up and you may not be doing that aspect the whole time throughout a company. The best managers are ones who have actually done a role, whether it's for one day, whether it's for 1 week, or whether it's for a month, because they're so in touch with what is actually being done. There's never something that I would ask someone to do that I wouldn't do myself or haven't done myself. So that's really the whole frame of mind. That's what I think always makes for a great leader and a great CEO.
I've been around a little while to have experienced a lot of different founders, a lot of different companies at various stages of growth, some public, some startups. And I agree with you. I think those are some really fundamental characteristics of successful leaders today. So what led you to the inspiration to create CatchCorner? What is CatchCorner for people who don't know it?
CatchCorner is an app where essentially you can book any single sports facility that really you could think of. Let's say basketball court, a volleyball court, pickleball court, tennis court, soccer field, really sort of any sort of recreational, I would say, space. And it's extremely, I would say, easy, and I would say intuitive to use. So you see all the different times all in one. Once you find what you want, you can easily click on it, and you could instantly check out.
So I'm a tennis player, so I'm looking to reserve a court for a game, and I could just go on, see what the available inventory is, and book it. It's not unlike booking a table at a restaurant.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's the number one thing, that CatchCorner didn't reinvent the wheel. I think it really took a model that has worked so well in so many different industries. With that being said, though, too, I think that something that is slightly different from, I would say, booking a table at a restaurant is that there's specific requirements that, from a technical perspective, have to be in place. So one example could be, for instance, that each time you are renting something, a waiver or a rental agreement has to be signed.
There's all kinds of things that come up, right, when it comes to renting it. Anybody can't just rent a facility.
I think the biggest aspect, though, and the biggest theme that I've always sort of prided this company on is based on accessibility. So, for instance, we onboarded the 2010 Olympic Stadium, which is in Vancouver, Canada, and to the naked eye, you may want to have a group of friends who want to book a 1 hour game of basketball and rent the court, and I would say that traditional wisdom has sort of really dictated that you can't do something like that. Really, the main goal of CatchCorner is to make every single sporting space very accessible.
You are really serving two different constituents, right? On the one hand, you're a B2B company, right? Because you need to sign up those facilities, those locations, and work out an arrangement with them. And I would expect that your app probably has to serve their needs and their systems. And then on the other hand, you have the end user, right, the consumer, and their experience is also needing to be, call it, intuitive, right, to how people experience booking. Do you have different teams working across both of those different audiences?
We have our sales team and we have our onboarding team, which a lot of that aspect really focuses on, I would say, the facility side of things. And then there's the other aspect of the company that, whether it deals more with like the operations or the customer service angle, the main aspect, which really, I would say, joins the two, would be, for instance, the tech sort of behind it, where at the end of the day, the tech really need to make sure that both aspects of the company are really working in a cohesive manner, and at the same time also keeping the customer in mind.
So you basically started out by talking about CatchCorner as an app. Do you also have a website?
We have a web app and we also have a mobile app. My two thoughts about that is that I think a lot of the times people really go in the sense that, like everything's done on a phone, everything, let's say, the tip of your fingertips. And I think that in order to be a successful company nowadays, you really need both. When you have a web app and when you have a mobile app, I think that you just make things like I would say completely accessible.
So let's talk a little bit about the actual experience itself. An experience with a digital device or on a website makes you feel something. And I think we're getting to a question. Our expectations are driven by our last great experience, regardless of what the industry is, right? It's like, why can't it be that easy?
I think that experience, it really ties into so many different aspects of the company. Like, before I guess I talk about specifically about the product itself, I think that one thing to keep in mind always is that there's real people behind every single, let's say, transaction or action that are being taken. I think a lot of the times, especially when you are scaling, you kind of just see these numbers and you see a little number on your board, but you don't actually like think that that's an actual human being. If you don't keep that perspective, as simple as it may sound, then you kind of lose touch. There's a real person behind each one of these orders, and they could be having a good day, they could be having a bad day, and we could be a minute and a half, 2 minutes of their day. From the second they enter the app to the second they leave the app, each interaction with each different screen is going to impact how they felt and how they actually, let's say, enjoyed your product.
Well, you're clearly, I think, providing a great value to both your customers as well as the merchants that you're serving. I noticed, on your LinkedIn profile, which I encourage everybody to connect with you, it says CatchCorner by Sports Illustrated. What's that all about?
Growing up, I always used to read the Sports Illustrated magazines. It really was a dream come true when we did start, I would say, working with Sports Illustrated. It actually began during the pandemic, when we actually they had a bit more time on their hands because the sporting world was really at a pause. They really believed in the vision of making sports sort of as accessible as possible.
That's wonderful. Are they a part owner or?
Yeah, so we're partners, and I would say in the sense that we really do a lot of extensive work together, and there's a lot more to come as well.
Is there anything else you wanted to chat about?
I would say word of advice that I would give is that I think a lot of the times when someone does think of, let's say, an app idea, their first thought is always, let's go find a developer. When you're going to build a building, your initial thought isn't, let me go and find a construction worker. The first thing always is that you have to have really good plans in place, and that requires both, I would say system architecture from the back end, but it also requires really good, I would say, like prototypes from the front end, and making sure that you test it on people, and making sure that you iterate 5 times before you actually write a line of code.
Well, this has been a great conversation. I think you've provided some really great advice for people just getting started, or particularly people that are trying to scale their businesses.
Thank you.